Mike, I have good news.
Uh, Good. I
I
need
know
good
it's
news.
good. It's going to warm up finally in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, it
And it's
is.
funny because I've been on calls with people in Missouri and DC and New York, and they're all complaining about how hot it is. And it's been like 23 and raining here. No, I mean
Just
it's been
drizzly
like
and
50 and
dark.
raining.
Yeah, I know. Well, that means we'll all be complaining about the heat soon instead of dark and cold, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's what we do. Um, Speaking of which, it's 125 degrees in Iran. India's floods are so bad that the crops have been wiped out. The glacial melt coming off Antarctica is greater than ever been measured before. Wheat in Ukraine can't be shipped to the Middle East and Africa, so they think famine is coming. And Lake Mead is so low that the U.S. Department of the Interior is about to start rationing water to farmers. So, yeah, it's going to be hot, but
Mike, I when I started by saying there's good news, like I
I
don't
just
know.
destroyed that, didn't I?
You did. I feel like this is going to be a downer of a LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook Live
Quite
thing,
possibly.
or maybe it's just that you studied Earth science.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate knowing some of this stuff that I know.
Well,
Just,
knowledge is power.
well, I'm just trying to level set what we actually have to complain about. The
Yeah,
threat of
yeah, yeah,
extinction makes all this cyber nonsense seem pretty insignificant, don't you think? Let's talk about it anyway. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's true. I guess that's true. But look, we're here to help. There are things that we can do for folks. And speaking of which, tomorrow is free security awareness training,
mhm.
guaranteed to never be boring. It's at noon Pacific. Email me, Jake at criticalinsight.com if you need an invite. Mike, now, what's the happy news in cyber? What's the news in cyber this week?
Just don't preface it with happy.
Mm.
So let's see. Unsurprisingly, surprising no one, a study has found that the U.S. is the most breached country in the world. And I think it's interesting that one reason they gave for this is the absence of personal privacy legislation in the US, which makes sense because part of what gets us into all the trouble is the amount of data we give up every day because of unregulated data collection.
Like phone apps, websites.
Yeah, that more everything we do now that involves a networked device is collecting data to use in continuing to accelerate the process of consumption. Our economy is based on ads. And that's not that much of an exaggeration. However, there is now finally privacy legislation in front of Congress. I don't know if you saw that. There's a lot of dissent on the language already in the bill, with privacy rights organizations, civil liberty groups, and businesses all weighing in on this. And it's interesting. The ACLU came out as an early critic, so
Hmm.
our condition is likely to persist. Um, the U.S. is warning about Russia coming back to disinformation to exploit, divisions in the U.S. as we lead up to the 2022 midterm elections. And knowing Americans as I do, this is likely to work. Our collective standard for facts now is some dude said. What else? The former head of the NSA, speaking about Russia, is warning about Russian cyber attacks against the financial sector, specifically to punish the U.S. for our support of Ukraine. That could get bad very quickly.
Although, you know, we'll see. I mean, nothing terrible has happened so far. And big story, I think, in the New York Times today that three-quarters of the Russian attacks failed. So we'll see.
How many does it take? You
I
know.
That's fair. Hmm.
What else? Did you know Facebook is being sued for redirecting patient information? They have this thing called the Metapixel tracking tool, and they were snarfing patient information and sending that over to Facebook without authorization. So they're getting sued. And also in healthcare, hospitals and health systems are now directly asking the federal government for assistance in shouldering the burden of all these attacks they endure.
Hmm.
And specifically, what we've called out about the public harm done by these attacks versus the private responsibility to stop them from happening. The playing field is tilted very badly in favor of the threats. But I just don't think we have a Congress that can get anything done about that.
Hey, not so much with the optimism today, Mike. Although I'm not sure anything you said is wrong. You know, by the way, what's this thing I read about Microsoft 365 and the ongoing attack against it? Sounds like a big deal.
Hmm.
You know, and the vertical sectors that are being targeted make it look like something big's coming. What do you think?
Maybe, this is voicemail based phishing, right? You get an attachment in an email message that says you have voicemail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which this happens all the time. We talk about it in security awareness training. It's fake, you know. But what they're doing is collecting credentials for later use in um, software security, military security solution providers like us,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare and pharmaceuticals, manufacturing. Put all that together, and what it looks like is we're probably going to get more supply chain follow-on attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like compromising software that's used by a lot of organizations, gaining access through trusted network communications from IT service and security providers, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we've seen this
Mm-hmm.
before, Kaseya, for example. Luckily, we monitor our own network as if we were any other CI customers, so we have good early warning and process to not end up on the list of compromises to come.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you're paying attention, tell everyone you work with, watch out for those voicemail attachments, especially the one, they try to get you to give up your passwords, and turn on multi-factor authentication if you haven't. I know
Yep.
that everybody listening to this has, but there was actually a study out this week that it's like 8% of C-level executives have MFA, maybe
Eight.
15%, something. It was really
Wow.
terrible. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah, it's
awful.
really not good. Um, and so, I mean, look, it's amazing with these phishing emails. But, Mike, they continue to work.
Yeah, people are gullible. No one can think critically. People believe what the internet tells them. So it's going to continue to work. And we know that because, and this is a fact, there are 26 billion sets of stolen credentials up for sale on the dark web and only 7 billion people on Earth. Okay. So I interpret that as meaning that A, people have a lot of accounts,
Mhm.
with passwords, and B, many are frequent flyers that just, I guess enjoy being duped. I don't know.
Well, here, let me just share my password program here and show you how many
Sure.
accounts I have. Right. So speaking of being duped,
Mm.
also in the blast, I read that the FBI is saying that fraud on LinkedIn is now a significant
Oh,
threat to
yeah.
customers, and a threat to the platform itself. And but it's crypto. It's about
Yeah.
crypto.
Yeah. Speaking of gullibility, how's this work? A scammer creates a fake LinkedIn profile, right?
Uh
Reaches
huh.
out to users and eventually offers to help them invest in crypto, right?
Uh huh.
Well, the end state is all your money gets stolen. So if you're taken in by that one, you are not tracking what is happening to the value of cryptocurrency right now. It's tanking. I think Bitcoin lost something like 20% of its value last week.
Well, and I don't know if you heard what Bill Gates said, but basically stay away from crypto investments.
Hmm.
So what do we need to do to stop all this? I mean, I know more regulations being considered, specifically by the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and market forces. Helping because now everyone's worried about doing business with somebody that has bad security. So everyone's checking everyone out. And to a point you made earlier, insurance companies are regulating everyone.
Yeah.
So with every conversation now about security controls in your business, will the needle finally move? Will more than 15% of executives get MFA?
Eventually, maybe, but the carnage on the way there is going to continue to hurt the economy really badly. I personally have been a proponent of treating our logical border just like our physical border. If
Hmm.
you don't behave, you're not getting in, right? Start whitelisting communication coming into the US. And ultimately, I think the internet is going to balkanize that way. Countries are going to cut themselves off and only let in traffic that is specifically authorized.
Hmm.
I don't think continuing to maintain this fantasy of everyone getting secure and having a resilience plan is ever going to do it, because to our earlier point, people are gullible and that can't be fixed. It can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, until that time, we'll have to keep working to minimize the impact of all the, well, gullibility. with rapid detection and response. That's why
Hmm.
we say we help people prepare, we help people detect, we help people respond rapidly.
Yeah.
Put out that malware fire before you know it turns into the flames that are ransomware. So anyway, Mike, this has been a somewhat pessimistic chat here.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I know everybody sits around and waits. Hey, what are this week's threats and vulnerabilities? Mike, what are the T's and V's?
Well, I probably can't enumerate all of them because there was a lot, but there are some big ones. So that Microsoft 365 voicemail themed phishing
Mm-hmm.
is coming your way. So try and resist the urge to give up your password to get fake voicemail, please.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new NTLM relay attack that lets
Mm-hmm.
attackers take over your Windows domain. This is actually a well known and kind of older attack that's being combined with something else. It exploits authentication challenge and response. So you can pick credentials off the wire. um, QNAP back in the news with their NAS devices, network attached storage. They're being taken over again because it uses a vulnerable version of PHP that's being exploited. Update now, especially if you're exposing your NAS to the internet, which, and I can't think of a reason for doing that, but okay. Um, a big one is that 56 vulnerabilities have been disclosed that impact OT devices from 10 vendors. So the potential is for code execution, changing the logic in PLCs, compromising firmware, et cetera, right? So the potential there is for critical infrastructure disruption. There's a 5-year-old Apple Safari vulnerability that's under active exploit right now. So
Wait,
this
so that means you wouldn't have updated Safari for 5 years, or it's
that
been a vulnerability for 5 years?
I think, well, it's probably not been exploited for 5 years, but it's been a bug for 5 years.
Oh,
That's the way
good.
I interpret it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the CVE is 2022-22620.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there was one interesting takedown this week. The U.S. disrupted, meaning melted,
Mm-hmm.
a massive Russian botnet, and it was targeting IoT, Android, industrial control systems, as well as computers.
Oh, well,
So,
good. We got after that one. Well,
yeah,
see, we got to some good news. Well done. Well done. Just in time for the kicker where you make everybody laugh. What do you got, Mike?
nobody's going to laugh at anything I've said today.
Yeah, what do you got? You better make everybody you bring a good smile with this one. What do you got?
Okay, so this week it is the researcher that hacked into the back-end system for the network of smart jacuzzis. Smart, meaning that you can control it from an app on your phone, right? Which
Mhm.
was hacked to give access to the admin panel for the network. So the researcher was able to see every detail of every owner, mess with settings, even delete owners from the system, which they did not do. So again, everything that's networked is a threat, even your hot tub.
I feel like somebody in Russia is making the jets in my hot tub go on. Although, you know what? With global warming and everything, like jokes on them, nobody needs hot tubs anymore.
That's right.
There you
That's
go. There you go.
well,
See, we made it all the way back around. Does
full
that make you feel
circle.
better? There you go. Full circle.
There
All
we
right,
go.
everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you at security awareness training. If you need anything, email me, Jake at criticalinsight.com. If you want to talk to Mike and tell him you know what? If anyone has a really good joke for Mike, call Mike. Tell
I
Mike a
can
good
use it.
joke. Sounds
Yeah, I
like he
can
needs
use
it.
it.
All right. See y'all later.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.